Psalms chapter 36, verses 7 through 8. If you all want us to read those aloud together. How excellent is thy loving kindness, O God! Therefore the children of men put their trust under the shadow of thy wings. They shall be abundantly satisfied with the fatness of thy house, and thou shalt make them drink of the river of thy pleasures. You know, we look around us, the shape the world's in. Not too long ago, we had something happen we never thought would. The president of our country advocating homosexual marriage. We have prayer has been taken out of schools for a long time. I know that's been mentioned from the pulpit over and over again, but we can see the impacts that taking God out of the public square has had. We see all throughout the country lawsuits and judge court orders and everything coming against nativity scenes, display of crosses, the words "under God." We see the violence escalating and the Christian community decline. We have churches that are accepting homosexuals into the ministry. We have a world gone crazy. We come down to our own personal lives. And while the media tries to tell us that the economy is getting better, we see jobs leaving the area, people having to move to find work, or losing everything altogether. We see that things aren't exactly the way they're being painted to us. Kids going off to college, the cost of tuition rising, the amount of debt they come out of college with being so high, so astronomical that they can't even afford to pay off their school loans because they can't find a job that pays good enough. People with higher education having to take smaller jobs, less paying jobs than what they normally would have had to take just because they need something to pay bills. And it's not confined to the United States. This has plagued the world. Europe started with it a long time before we did, throwing God out of the public square. And we look overseas and we see the havoc that it's wreaked on their economy and on their society. People without God, people without that moral compass, are a confused, bewildered, and lost people. And as they go through their problems, as they face all of the greatness that they've searched for, and they find it empty, they turn to the one that they have been rejecting the whole time and blame God for the problems. But as Christians, we know that that's not the case. God doesn't work ill, do bad things for His people. He brings all things for the good of those that love and serve Him. And that's what the writer here is talking about. How excellent is thy loving kindness, O God. This morning, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what your life storms or trials or troubles may be. But one thing I do know is that we serve a God that is over all. All powerful, all knowing, all present. He knows everything that is coming your direction. He knows it before it even starts. Not because He causes bad things to happen to us, but because He knows our hearts. He knows the future. He is in all time, at all time. He knows it all. And yet we push Him away. We shove Him away. And we say we want to do this on our own. We can handle life on our own. But we can't. We can't do that. We can't do this on our own. The things in life that are troubling you, you can't handle on your own. You can't do it. It's just not possible. You can fight and struggle, blame it on this or that. But the fact of the matter is if you don't have peace and you don't have hope, it's because you don't have God. It's not because God has turned His back on you. It's because you have turned your back on Him. That's why. Now, I'm not saying that Christians aren't going to have problems. Because Christians have problems just like the heathen and sinners do. It rains on the wicked as well as the righteous. But the difference is that we have one that we can turn to. One that does have the answers. One that does have everything under control. And while He may not snap His fingers and make everything right in your life, He is someone you can talk to, someone that you can lean on, someone that cares for you, someone that is there for you no matter what your situation may be. Friends around you may turn their backs. Friends around you may blame you or say that it's your fault, or maybe you've done something wrong, but the God of all glory knows the truth. He knows that as long as you walk with Him, you hold His hand, you stay by His side, you follow in His will, the way that He wants you to, that He will guide your path and direct you and work all things for the good of them that love and serve Him. Oh, how excellent is thy loving kindness, O God. We can put our trust under the shadow of His wings. Put our trust under the shadow of His wings. That means all of the problems you have, give them to God. We can do that and trust that He'll take care of us. Yes, we have things that we have to do on our own. We can't just say, Lord, I need help with my bills, and quit our job and trust God to pay for them. That's not trust. That's using God as a crutch. We have a part to play. God has given us abilities and strengths and talents that we have to use the way that He has given them to us, the way He is directing us to use them. And if we follow what we're supposed to do, we can trust that God will take care of us. Put our trust under the shadow of His wing. And not only can we put our trust under the shadow of His wing, but it says that we shall be abundantly satisfied with the fatness of thy house, and you will give us to drink from the rivers of your pleasure. That's what it's saying to us. We'll be satisfied. No. We will be abundantly satisfied. Being a Christian is supposed to be a happy thing. It's supposed to be filled with joy and hope and love. That's what being a Christian is about. It's not about being sad and depressed and hanging our head down all the time and wondering what's going to happen next. That's not being a Christian. That's being a grump. Being a Christian is filled with joy and love and hope and charity, something that the world doesn't have. Yeah, as long as things are going the way that you want them to, it's easy to be happy. But when things are going against you, when the storms of life have covered you up and enveloped you, the only thing that can give you joy is the hope and love that comes from Jesus Christ. Knowing that His truth is always true. Knowing that His way is always the way. Knowing that His hope is always real. That He will be there in the end. That His way will succeed. I think we're a little too quiet about this. I think that it's time we had a shout in the church. We have the hope and love from the God of all glory showering down upon us as children of His. And we want to sit around like bumps on a log. That's not joy. That's not hope. That's not charity. That's not God's grace and goodness and mercy. Amen? Amen. For God will give us the abundant satisfaction that comes from the fatness of His house and from the river of His pleasures. And this morning we either need to find a way to pour out that joy, pour out that love, pour out that hope, pour out that mercy and the grace that God has given to us, the abundant satisfaction that He has given to us. Find a way to show that to the world around us, or find ourselves a place at the altar of prayer. One or the other. God's joy and grace, if it is poured out abundantly upon you, if you have abundant satisfaction through Him, you will not find yourself silent. It's impossible to be overflowing with joy and capped off at the same time. It's time we praise God. No longer should we be a dead church, but one that is alive and filled with God's love and joy and hope and charity, and with His mercy and grace and goodness pouring off of us. Oh, how He loves us. But how much do we love Him? How much are we willing to do for Him? We know, we've seen the old saints of the church sitting around with a scowl on their face, looking around at everyone, watching them come in, checking everybody out, up and down. We've seen that. That's not love. That's not joy. Love and joy shows itself in a way that makes you hungry. Those aren't the people that brought you to God. The ones that came up to you and wrapped their arm around you and said, I love you, and I'm praying for you. That's who brought you to God. The ones that called you up every once in a while, those are the ones that brought you to God. The ones that were there for you when you needed them. The ones that were happy, filled with joy and hope. Those are the ones that brought you to God. Being a Christian isn't being a grump. Being a Christian is being filled with joy and love. Now, I'm not talking about someone that's just out in space, wandering around with hoping for just everything's going to go great and the pie in the sky and everything's going to go my way. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being real, but being really filled with God's love and joy. You see a difference there, right? I mean, anybody can be filled with love and joy if they're doped up. That's easy. But being filled with God's love and joy in a real, tangible way. Let me ask you a question. When is the last time you went up to someone and told them I'm praying for you? Not because you're condemning them, but because you love them. When is the last time that someone came up to you and asked you where you went to church? Because they've seen something that they're interested in. If you have a life of love, a heart filled and overflowing with joy, people will notice and people will seek it out. It's a fact. It's a fact. There's a lady at Home Depot we see all the time. We call her Miss Holly. She works checkout over at the Pro Desk. One of the happiest people you'll ever meet. She just pours happiness and joy. That's the kind of people that draw others into God. Now, I've seen her on a bad day. And it wasn't much different from the good day. Now again, not everyone can be that way. Not everyone can just hold that steady keel. But then again, not everyone should have emotions like a roller coaster either. God's love, if it covers us, gives us a joy, a satisfaction that nothing else can relate to. I want you to think back. I think most everyone here at some point or time has been in love. I hope that a lot of you have, seeing as most of you are married. When you first had those feelings of love, do you remember how you were just floating around on a cloud, like nothing seemed to matter? It's kind of like that with God. The difference is, when God forgives us, it's completely clean. We start over fresh. See, in a relationship among man, we have memories of these things that go wrong. From time to time, those memories will come back to us. Something will happen to remind us of that, something that that person did. Sometimes it'll be something that someone else had did in the past, and we just take it out on that one. God doesn't do that with us. God's love covers us, enwraps us, and we can always have that feeling that no matter what's going on, no matter what's around us, He's always there for us. And if we do take a wrong step, He will forgive us and forget it. One thing that hinders us, our Christian walk, is our past. We say, well, I can't be that kind of a Christian because I've done these things in my past. I could never be that saint that sits around and shouts and praises God. I can never be that person because I've got all this past behind me. All these things I've done wrong. People are going to look at me and they're going to say, look, I know who you used to be. There's no way you can be this person now. But the difference is you can say, yeah, that's who I used to be. I'm a new person now. I think that's one of the reasons why when it talks about being saved in the Bible, it talks about being born again. You are a completely, entirely new person. A brand new start. You don't have to worry about your past. That was someone else. Now you're a child of God. Now you can completely and fully put your trust under the shadow of His wing. Rely on Him completely 100%. It doesn't matter what your past is or what it says. As long as you're forgiven and covered by His blood, you can put your trust under His wings. You can rely on Him to take care of you and find the joy and peace that you've been searching for so long. This morning I have to ask you, does that describe you? Is your trust completely and fully put under the wing of God? Or are you still worrying and fretting over things that happened in the past? Things that you've been forgiven for? Do you find yourself bubbling over with joy and with love? Do you find others finding that in you? Seeing that love and hope and joy that just pours out. This morning, are you abundantly satisfied? Or are you just getting by? This morning, if you don't have that fire burning in your soul, thumping within you, this morning, if you don't have that passion for God, this is where you find it.